WFYI podcasts are made possible by Bloomington, Indiana, an American college town offering experiences like indulging in grub at Nick's English Hut, taking a stroll along Kirkwood Avenue, feeling the history and magic of Assembly Hall, and providing the chance to feel like a college kid again. Plan your trip at visitbloomington.com.
WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Indianapolis Shakespeare Company, presenting Riverside, a play by M.L. Roberts, July 18th to the 27th at Taggart Memorial Amphitheater. More at indieshakes.com.
This is WFYI News Now. It's July 11th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, a federal program to get Hoosiers affordable, high-speed internet. What might be behind changes in Indiana's unemployment rate? And we have a feature story about efforts to bring information about lead exposure to Spanish-speaking communities.
We've contaminated a lot of urban environments with a lot of lead, just both from lead paint on homes that have decayed, as well as lead from leaded gasoline that's been deposited in soils.
Those stories coming up. But first, one of Indianapolis's largest day shelters and supportive service providers for people experiencing homelessness will see leadership changes in 2025. Horizon House CEO Teresa Wessel will retire at the end of the year. Wessel became the CEO in December of last year, having served in several positions during her 14 years with the organization. During those years, Horizon House launched the Permanent Housing Program, expanded their street outreach team, and secured funding and partnerships to continue to increase services in central Indiana. Doran Ferris, board chair at Horizon House, thanked Wessel for her commitment to the organization and the impact she's left on the lives of countless individuals. While searching for a new CEO, Ferris says a transition plan is in place to ensure no interruption for people who need service. Indiana is cleared to go from planning to action in connecting Hoosiers with affordable high-speed internet under a federal program. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith reports the Biden administration announced Monday it approved the state's plan to use $868 million in funding.
Assistant U.S. Commerce Secretary Alan Davidson says the money, approved in the 2021 federal infrastructure package, will go to internet service providers to connect people who are unserved or underserved.
This is really our chance to connect everyone in America with the tools that they need to thrive in the modern digital economy.
Governor Eric Holcomb says the federal money follows more than $1 billion in spending in recent years by state, local, and private sector partners.
It's not just an advantage to be connected via broadband, it's a necessity. And it really does break down barriers no matter where you live, urban, rural, or suburban.
The state expects to begin awarding grants to providers this fall. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
Indiana's unemployment rate has gradually increased to 3.7% over the last 6 months, according to preliminary data. But some of these preliminary estimates are seasonally adjusted months or sometimes years after their initial release. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Tamoria Cunningham reports one expert says these seasonal adjustments help us understand fluctuations in the job market.
Rachel Blakeman directs the Community Research Institute at Purdue University, Fort Wayne. According to Blakeman, employment data is seasonally adjusted throughout the year due to the natural ups and downs of the job market. Blakeman says these seasonal adjustments are one of a few reasons there are fluctuations in the state's unemployment rate.
So the obvious ups and down points are if we think about it for summer. So we know that we have students, perhaps retirees, who work at whatever summer institutions you want to think about.
Blakeman also says many businesses hire for seasonal work around November and December. She says in January, that influx of hiring typically scales back, which can cause a fluctuation in the unemployment rate. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Tamoria Cunningham.
And for our final story today, lead exposure can lead to long-term consequences for children, especially if not caught and treated quickly. Outreach on the risks of lead often fall on health departments. But what happens when there is a language barrier? Indiana Public Broadcasting's Violet Cumber-Weiland reports on one woman's efforts to bring information and resources to Spanish-speaking communities in Indiana.
Marjorie Duarte Sheffield moved to the U.S. from Venezuela 24 years ago. She says at the time she didn't know anything about lead and its risks. More than 2 decades later, she's helping other Spanish-speaking community members through the Marion County Public Health Department.
I am the one that is going out and about talking about lead poisoning prevention, getting to know the population, the Hispanic population. It's important.
When Duarte Sheffield thinks of the value of her work, she reflects on a success story. She visited a home where children tested positive for lead, but the family couldn't find the source. Duarte Sheffield was able to recognize lead on one of the children's necklaces.
So we told them, remove it from the children, and problem solved. And those are things that fills my heart with joy, because I know now that could happen even with Shirley.
Her work took Duarte Sheffield to a recent health resource fair for immigrants.
Well, I'm here talking to people in person, letting them know about lead poisoning.
Duarte Sheffield says spaces like this one are important to get the word out about lead risks to Spanish-speaking communities. She feels like there is still not enough being done to share information and reduce barriers for lead testing. And the need for more information and resources in Indiana keeps growing. Census data shows the Hispanic and Latino populations in the state grew by more than 40% over the last decade to more than 500,000 people. Gabriel Filippelli is the executive director of the Indiana University Environmental Resilience Institute. He says there are a lot of lead risks in the state.
We've contaminated a lot of urban environments with a lot of lead, just both from lead paint on homes that have decayed, as well as lead from leaded gasoline that's been deposited in soils.
There is no safe level of lead. Kids with lead poisoning may experience trouble learning, issues with behavior, and poor kidney function. Michelle Del Rio is an assistant professor at Indiana University. She says to reach Spanish-speaking populations with information about the risks, health departments must consider how to best present it.
From my experience, it works best when you are very transparent about what you want from the community to do and how the community is going to benefit from either your research or from preventing lead exposure. And also having practical recommendations that are aligned with the resources that these families have.
Del Rio works with a lot of mixed immigration status families. She says economic and immigration concerns can also be a barrier to lead testing.
I think there's also maybe a fear that there's government involvement in if somehow participating in either testing your home or testing your children. So maybe making sure that that message is clear that this is not going to investigate your immigration status.
Marjorie Duarte Sheffield says she is encouraged by education and outreach efforts so far, but more still needs to be done.
More information to the parents, for the parents to request it in their children's schools. And also, this is a dream. If it would be a legislation about that, something bigger, but it's just a dream. How to make it happen, I have no idea.
In the meantime, Duarte Sheffield continues to work to engage Hispanic families through education, outreach, and resources. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Violet Cumber-Weiland.
In Marion County, lead screening is available for children under 7, pregnant women, and consumer products every Thursday from noon to 5. For more information, visit missionunleaded.org. That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes, Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share. And follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.
WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Indianapolis Shakespeare Company, presenting Riverside, a play by M.L. Roberts, July 18th to the 27th at Taggart Memorial Amphitheater. More at indieshakes.com.